we talk a rather upsetting issue, allegations that have repeatedly been aired, that China plays a part in harvesting organs, mainly of executed prisoners. The numbers run to thousands every year. Organs then get sold on for transplants. It's always been vehemently denied by the Chinese government. But here in Britain, representatives of a campaign called Forced Organ Harvesting have been looking at the issue, and they've gone as far as presenting their latest findings to the British Parliament. Two representatives join us here in the studio. Welcome to David Kilgour, former member of the Canadian Parliament, and Ethan Gutmann, author of several books on China, who've both been involved in the investigations, are here to tell us a little bit more. David Kilgour, if I could start with you, what are the latest findings of your investigation? What are you closing in on?
That about 65,000 Falun Gong practitioners have been killed and their organs trafficked. There are other people too, convicted prisoners are killed, of course, but the thing that we're focusing on is the Falun Gong community. My colleague Ethan Gutmann has done a lot of work on the Uyghur community. He'll probably want to say something about that. But yeah, there's no doubt. We have 52 kinds of evidence that this is happening. To give you the easiest example, the wife of a surgeon told us that her husband had removed the corneas from 2,000 Falun Gong practitioners in a 2-year period. So, I mean, there's absolutely no doubt in anybody's mind. We've got 2 books on it. We've got all kinds of...
And these, just to clarify, these come after judicial executions?
No, there's no judicial involvement in virtually all of the Falun Gong. That's the thing that nobody understands.
Okay, right. So we better clarify this, because we often cover the fact that China, of course, has one of the highest rates of execution, judicial execution. It's their choice. That's what they do. And they're always there in the top 3, along with Saudi Arabia and Iran. But this is something different.
Exactly. It's because a police signature is all you need to get sent to a forced labor camp. And then basically what happens is somebody from, it could be London, it could be Canada, goes over there for a liver. And there's a computer bank, and it says there's a match for you out in camp number 50. And somebody's dragged out of the camp number 50 into an operating room. Their liver's taken out of them. It's flown to Shanghai, where you're probably waiting for your liver. And you come back to London with a new liver, and somebody has been killed like a lobster in a grotesque restaurant.
Hang on a minute. So you're not even saying, because, I mean, it's one issue, the judicial executions and the use of the cadaver, which I suppose in a certain legal sense is the property of the state once the state has killed the individual. But you're saying these are people being killed to order?
Precisely. And it's so, as you say, your horror shows how distressing it is. But yet it never gets mentioned that these are people who've been maybe giving out pamphlets asking them to stop killing Falun Gong, and they're guilty of nothing.
Ethan Gutmann, also here. Can we step back just a moment before we talk a little more about this? I want to find out, there is a shortage of organs because people don't donate them. Is that why? What are the cultural reasons why there is this kind of shortfall that fuels this market that you allege you have evidence for?
Well, there is a cultural shortfall, but that's in part because the Chinese government has never really promoted it. They didn't have to. They have this massive supply, possibly, up to 3 million prisoners out there. Of those prisoners, perhaps 25-30% are prisoners of conscience. Some people who aren't even in the system, never even registered into it. They've disappeared. These are people who often even don't give their names to protect their families or their locations. These people are prime candidates for organ harvesting.
Now, the allegation is, it's left me open-jawed, what you've just said. I have to ask you more precisely, what evidence do you have? Who have you spoken to, for example, who is actually involved in this trade that you allege is there?
Start in the beginning. In 1995, there's a man in this city, Enver Totti, who you can interview yourself. I suggest you bring him on the program. He performed a live organ harvesting of a prisoner who'd been shot in the left side of the chest in a non-lethal way. And he removed the kidneys and liver from this man. So you can start with that, that acknowledgement, and then you can go to the massive evidence of prisoners, particularly Falun Gong, who were examined in Laogai and under extremely primitive conditions. And they're being tortured and they're not being fed and so on. But then they're taken to a modern hospital, just the Falun Gong. And there they look carefully at their corneas, not their eyesight, just their corneas.
So in effect, you allege that these prisoners are being catalogued for what might be saleable or useful as a body part.
No, I think we're alleging that they've been harvested at a scale of possibly 10 to 15% of these prisoners of conscience.
Okay, how does the market operate? Who controls it, therefore?
I think there we've got a lot. I think there's where the work needs to be done, is how is this market operated? As I understand it, there was a doctor, a surgeon in Taiwan, who was well aware of this because he used to argue for the Chinese price for his patients. And they said, well, you know what, we really love you. The other doctor said, so we're going to give you the Chinese price. Not only that, we're giving you all Falun Gong. These people don't smoke, they don't drink, they don't have hepatitis. And I asked him that question. Well, how's this done? He said it through sort of an informal eBay system in China.
Right, so if there's an informal system, this also means that ultimately the Chinese government can deny any involvement in it, which they always have done.
Yeah,
they've said that they've been made aware of some of these problems and they have taken action to systematically root this out. That's what they've always said.
But there's one problem.
Briefly?
Yes. The six high-ranking officials checked into an Urumqi hospital in 1997, and they were waiting for organs. A young doctor was told to go into the political prisoner wing of the Urumqi prison, Uyghur, and there he had to examine the blood of all the political prisoners for these six high-ranking officials. China's a surveillance state.
It's going on now, though. You're saying that's an example from 1997. We're now in 2013.
But this is a surveillance state, and who gets watched? The medical hospitals, the military, the party members.
Well, many thanks indeed. We'll have to leave it there. We could talk more. Ethan Gutmann and David Kilgour, many, many thanks indeed for coming in from the Forced Organ Harvesting Campaign.